Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm Katie,
I'm Wendy.
I'm Lori,
and welcome back to the Front Row Show.
created by the fans for the fans.
This week, break out a pencil and paper as we are going to, oh God, we're gonna get out of this. Okay, this week, break out a pencil and paper and we are gonna be given a drawing lesson by our favorite artist, Roy. Gloring. I had to.
We'll edit that.
Katie.
Hi.
Hi. Can you see my screen?
No.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
I'm all upside down here trying to figure. Okay, hold on. Where is the? Do that again. Okay.
Okay, I can see it. It's just sideways.
Okay, hold on. How do I fix that now? Hold on. I've got this crazy rig over here trying to figure out how to set it up. So let me see to flip it. There's over here flipping it. It's just you and me. I guess if I have to turn the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
Technology's great, isn't it?
Oh my God. Let's see if I can get this to stay though. All right.
Perfect.
I had a terrible time trying to set this up.
Oh no.
But all right. Well, I think you can see.
Yes.
Right.
I'm actually gonna spotlight you to make it bigger.
Okay.
There you go.
I know I cannot watch you guys because this camera is pointing. I wish I could take a picture of what it looks like.
Yeah.
I've rigged like this metal bar into my shelf with a hook extending all the way out to by my head. It's barely over my head. And then the phone is hanging here. So it's a little fragile, but I think we're okay.
Okay.
How is everybody?
We're good.
Good.
How are you?
I'll try to sneak in and say hi. Let's see. This is the top of my head.
Hi.
Hi.
I'll come back and say hello after we talk and discuss some of this stuff, I suppose.
Perfect.
You know, I got to talk to Richie. Maybe Richie could set me up one day with like a perfect studio for all this, where I could have a 2 or 3 camera, shot, and we can go back and forth.
That would be really awesome. Fun. I'm sure he would do that.
Yeah, right. Maybe after COVID.
Yeah, always.
Okay, so I asked, how's everybody doing?
We are good. All good.
Good. I'm good.
Hanging in there.
Great.
We're excited.
Is it a group of 4 of us here or 3? Who's all here?
Lori and Wendy and myself.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we're fully loaded, which, like I said, I can look kind of, but then I got like strain my neck to come around the phone. So
that's okay.
I'm glad we're all in here. Sorry to keep you guys waiting. It took me a little while to I had it kind of hooked up and then it like fell. And I was over here like saying not so nice words to it. This is a kid's show, so I gotta keep it calm.
Yeah.
Yep. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I feel good. Everything's going pretty well. I am staying always super creative and super productive with what I do. So sometimes I feel lucky because I'm able to do that. Just like you guys, it's so great that you do this show, and it gives you such an outlet to be able to talk to all the fans, talk to each other, talk to all the friends. I mean, it's really such a great thing. So I appreciate being here and getting to share what I'm doing with you guys.
We're glad to have you.
Good. So you guys are kind of staring at the computer screen here, and I have up there currently books of Seventh Heaven and the Rock and Roll Kids.
Woohoo!
So I thought before we maybe get into like drawing a character or something, I can kind of give a little rundown to all the viewers that know or maybe don't know about Seventh Heaven and the Rock and Roll Kids and what they're up to date.
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. So let's say we'll go all the way back to the beginning, which is now going to be just over 2 summers ago when I came up with the first Seventh Heaven and the Rock and Roll Kids book. And that was over here. and it was called Land of Confusion. That was the first book. And that book was done a little bit differently than the ones that are currently out. That one is completely full color, illustrated, closer to what a graphic novel is like. I got a lot of cartoon bubbles everywhere. And like I said, full color, it's a little bit bigger print. And I was going to go that route with all of them until I decided it takes a little bit longer to do. And also the fact that when we're at shows and Seventh Heaven is playing at concerts, it's a bigger book, so it's a little bit harder to take with you and carry. So I kind of thought it through and said, what if we had a little bit smaller book that was easier to handle, and we could also store more of them because we got to order in quantities sometimes. So it's great to bring the book a little bit smaller. And it also gave me the ability just to write a little bit differently. So instead of a bunch of cartoon bubbles, I get to be more narrative with the book and a little more descriptive, and it's kind of fun. So I get to play with everything there, from doing little cartoon bubbles within the book, as well as very narrative description stuff. And it's worked out really good so far.
Yeah, I think the ladies and I each have a copy. We love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you guys. I love seeing when I get people that do a review on Amazon or just send me something on Messenger. And of course, my favorite thing is when I get pictures from people that send me stuff of their kids holding the book. That's really cool. 'Cause I could tell they're really into it,
Mm-hmm.
Now I just gotta go ahead.
It's a fun book.
Thank you. So the Land of Confusion was the first one. The second book, which was released, and the ones since then are, like I said, done just a little bit differently. They're done more in a narrative way versus graphic novel. And just like to give you an example of what that might look like, I can pull up, I'm kind of searching here on my bottom line, what I have left up. Let's see. Well, I've since closed it, so we'll continue with the other books really quick, and then I'll pull up the rest. So book 2 was called Who Are You? And book 2 looks like this, the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And in this episode, the Rock and Roll Kids start to get a little bit more involved with helping other kids, and the readers start to understand kind of a little bit more of what they're all about. So I had a lot of fun making this book as well. And it took me right into book 3. I think I released books 2 and 3 together. And book 3 looked like this, called What You Give. And again, it's another book kind of where the Rock and Roll Kids arrive on scene and they're helping a kid that they think needs help, but they come to realize that really it's them that need a little bit of help. And it's the kid that kind of turns the script around and helps the Rock and Roll Kids, which is a kind of a nice little twist in that one, without giving anything away, but it's really nice little idea.
Okay.
And then episode 4, which I just released about a month ago, or a little bit less than that, right here, called Running Down a Dream. This is a really, yes, like based on Tom Petty. And this is a fun book because I got to introduce a familiar face that friends and fans of the band Seventh Heaven are well aware of, which is Mike's sister, Tammy. And she makes a big appearance in this book, and she's basically the main character in it. So it's really fun to kind of, for me, I'm always writing these characters, these 5 boys, to have to be able to write from a female perspective and kind of throw that in there was really fun. And my daughter, of course, is always urging me, "Hey, Dad, you got to get more girls in there." I go, I know.
Yeah.
so, right? She's pretty smart. So we're always working that angle. And there are in the other books that I showed you, books, the one prior to this, there's a great girl lead in it as well. So I really try to mix that up. And then the current book that I'm working on, which is almost ready, I'll show you guys that really quick before we move on to do whatever you want to do, is called Last in Line. The cover here has our main antagonist, Mr. Exec, which is kind of fun. And then I wanted to show you guys, there's a fun thing about this book that I'm not going to reveal yet. I mentioned how the previous book brings Tammy into the fold. The books prior to that have other special guests like Jim and Becky Obos appear, I believe, in book number 2. I have other guests in book 3 as well. And in this one, there's a whole bunch of special guests that appear. Like I said, I don't want to give it away yet. I think when we do a part 2 to this project that we're working on right now, this interview, I'll be able to give it away then, because it's nothing of like a cliffhanger. I'm giving any story away, but it's just a nice little fun look who I put in this book. And I think people will really appreciate it. So I'll show you guys that our next interview. But I wanted to touch, Katie, I think it was you that mentioned Tom Petty for
Yeah.
Running Down a Dream. And sometimes people have asked me, why do I title some of the books like I do? And it's a two-part thing. Like, number one, I always want to make sure that the title has something to do with obviously the story and maybe the lesson that the kids are kind of going through. And then, of course, the bigger part, or just as equal to me, is that it has to reference something of rock and roll. And so a lot of kids might not really know that part of it, but I think a lot of people that are fans of the band, people that are fans of rock and roll, they'll pick up on that part. So it's always this nice little balance that I try to do, where it's a title that can mean something to anything for anybody, but it's also a title that's deliberately titled to represent some kind of rock and roll album or artist. And in that,
Absolutely. That's what these rock and roll kids are all about.
exactly, that's what they're all about. And so and it's fun because I love when I find people that are just really about rock and roll, and they really get into all the little rock and roll one-liners and little things in the pictures that they really pay attention to. And then on the flip side of that, if they don't get that, it's okay, because it just goes right past them in the story, and they just kind of, the kids get to just, if they're able to, they'll learn from some of those little pictures and stuff, and realize that where it comes from. Otherwise, it doesn't really make a huge difference to them, because it still flows really well with the story. So and that's a little bit of a trick for me to do sometimes, but it's a challenge that I really love to live up to, because it helps me as an artist, and also just kind of keeps it creative and fun for, like, when I get to talk with fans or get to talk with different people about, why did you do this or why did you do that? So it's deliberate why I make these covers. And it's hard because sometimes I do want to do other things. Like I said, the one with Tammy, I would love to put her on the cover in a way, but then it kind of plays with the other side of it, but it's not doing the Tom Petty thing.
That's really cool. I like
Thank
that.
you. So I was going to show you guys just a quick second. So anybody that's wondering, again, why those albums look like that, I did kind of put together a quick little, this is the band Genesis, that back in the 80s put out a big popular music video back on MTV.
Confusion.
Land of Confusion. Right. And so Land of Confusion wasn't even an album, but it was a huge video. And they had these crazy looking puppet looking guys of the band. And so I really toyed with, in the very beginning, of trying to make the Rock and Roll Kids kind of look like this, but it really distorted them and it didn't really represent the brand enough. So I said, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to make their faces funny, but I will put the funny goggles on them that you don't see in this photograph, but it's in other pictures in the video, where the band members, Mike Rutherford and Phil Collins, and I forgot the other guy's name off the top of my head, but they're wearing these goggles, which are shown here. The Rock and Roll Kids all have on.
And you said Land of Confusion?
Yes, Land
No,
of
she's got to check it out.
I know.
Doesn't know what it is.
On flip side to that song, also, like, that was the original song, but then sometime in the mid 2000s, I think the band Disturbed did a cover version of it, and it's really cool because the Disturbed cover version has a great video as well, where it's all animated and it's done really, really, really well. So it's a fun thing, again, for when we do this, and Katie, or you're going to look at it. I love when people do that, because you investigate, like, where it comes from, and then you learn all these fun little tidbits about rock and roll, which is what, of course, we're all here for, because the band plays music and plays rock and roll. So
I thought it was like a Muppet thing first.
right.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm
I
definitely
believe-
checking this out for sure.
Yeah, check it out. It's an awesome video, and it's dated, of course, but it's kind of neat because it was in the heyday of MTV. So
Okay.
that's what's neat about it. And then we'll just run through for a second. Here's the one you see right on the top here. This is the Who. Who Are You? And I kind of basically did almost verbatim, a couple little minor changes here and there. And of course, I had to add a fifth member. The Who only has 4 members there. So that was kind of cool, trying to do that. And deciding who's going to be who, because who's going to be who. I didn't mean to do that. But Roger Daltrey is the singer frontman, so Adam stayed there, with that part. And Pete Townsend is the guitar player, and so I let Nick play the guitar, and then we got the drummer and the bass player, so that all matched up. And then I had to add Richie, which was cool. I kind of put him right in the front
Mhm.
and center there, which was a fun little play, trying to balance that picture out.
I knew that one. I didn't
Did
know
you
the
know?
Genesis one, but I knew this one.
No, that's awesome. And it's funny because some of them are harder to know. And I'm always trying to be very balanced because like I said, the stories have to have, the title has to mean something to the story. It also has to mean something to rock and roll, but I also don't want to be biased because we all have our bias. Of course, I love certain bands and different songs, but I also want to represent maybe ones that I don't particularly think are my favorites, but other people love as well. So and I say that especially with the next one, which was the album, the cover for What You Give. What You Give had two names. Originally, it was always going to be What You Give, and then I almost changed it to now I'm throwing myself a loop here. Red Hot Chili Peppers. What's the song? I can't think of the song off the top of my head, but it was going to be a Red Hot Chili Peppers title. And but it was a little bit more difficult to do that cover. So I said, you know what, I'm going to stick with What You Give. I like it the best. And Tesla is the band that I kind of based that off of. So in this case, my bias took over, but I do represent the Red Hot Chili Peppers pretty heavy in this particular story, which is
Ooh.
pretty fun. And Mike Mouche loves the Red Hot Chili Peppers, as does Mark. So
yeah.
that's really fun.
Yeah.
There's the reference for that one.
Oh, that's cool.
So thank you. It's a little odd because you just see these photographs of the kids in picture frames, but that's where it derives from. And I kind of did the same thing where I put each guy drummer to drummer, front man to front man, and guitarist to guitarist, bass player to bass player, guitarist to guitarist.
And there's
So
5 in the.
yeah, that one worked out great that there was 5. Now this next one was tougher because, oops, I didn't mean to close it, but that's okay. The Running Down a Dream,
Mhm.
where I have 5 guys, but on the album cover, Tom Petty is a single on
Oh
there.
yeah, it's
So
just him. Yeah.
yeah, so I got to, but it was still fun because I'm like, okay, I'll just add 5 guys. It'll be really still pretty unique. And you can see I kept Adam again in the center as the front person, and he kind of really mirrors that picture.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the other guys are kind of given this, like, when I look at it to myself, I pretend they're talking, and they're like, Mark's like, I think I'm looking the right way. And Richie's like, no, you got to look this way. And Mike's like, are you sure? And Nick's like, guys, just look at the gosh darn picture already. And Adam could
Yeah.
care less. Adam's in pose mode.
Yes,
So-
Adam's in pose mode. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, right?
Absolutely.
And then camera goes away and Nick's yelling at everybody. So
Yeah.
so and that's how fun it is to like write these things sometimes, because a simple little picture like that, I just start saying who would do what and how would they react, and whether I'm
Yeah.
right or wrong, it doesn't even matter. It's just fun to kind of do that little play along and do that.
I think you nailed it.
Thank you. And then I'll show you guys a sneak peek of the next one coming out. It's almost done. I'm just editing the final touches. It needs about 2 weeks before I'm going to release it, which is great because the original plan for myself was to have 7 episodes / books out before the summertime, being if everything was back to normal and we're all running like normal and at concerts and the band is full going, that we'd have all 7 stories out there, which is half of the first season, which gives the readers and everybody that's a fan of it, that you get the whole crux of the story basically within those 7. So I'm still working on that, and they will be ready. Whether or not we'll be at shows full time, we don't know yet.
We
But I
will
will
be at
have-
shows full time.
Exactly. Let's keep that positive. I'm going to go with what you said. So the last one is the hardest one of all the covers for me because it was the most detailed of them. And it was the trickiest to do. The name of the album was called Last in Line, from the band Dio, which is a heavy metal band. And Dio was a solo artist and then became part of Black Sabbath.
Okay.
Of course, fronted his own band. So this one's a real heavy, for people that don't know, it's a heavy metal band. And this is a big Nick influence, this band. So that's pretty great. Great vocalist, Ronnie James Dio. But I'm like, how can I turn this evil picture into my rock and roll kids?
Yeah.
And it was really hard to do. But at the same time, once I figured it out and it correlated with the story, it worked out really well, I think. And it looks like, let me pull it up. It looks like this.
That's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Good, yeah.
So I was able to keep, this is the only cover so far of the first 5 books that don't have basically the Rock and Roll Kids as the prominent figure that we're showcasing. I'm actually showcasing the bad guy here, Mr. Exec. For friends of Seventh Heaven and stuff that don't know who Mr. Exec is based off of, he is actually based off of our really, really good friend named Joey DeMarco, who is a friend of Richie's for many, 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 many years. And whenever we get to go out and restaurants or just hang out somewhere, and the banter between Richie and Joey is priceless. And it was so perfect to be able to have those two guys as like, here's our bad guy, here's our good guy, and just kind of give that back and forth sort of battle that they always have in real life and translated here in this cartoon.
And Joey
So-
was cool with it.
Yeah, he didn't want to be any part of it. And I said, Joey, don't worry, I'm going to make sure it's going to be great and you're going to love it eventually. So of course I get to have liberty and make him really evil looking and give him yellow eyes and make him, uglier than he is, because he's one of the most handsome men I've ever seen in life.